The Times 16. Here's the news edited by Dilini Gunawardana, read by Victor Raj. Here are the headlines of the local news. 3 sluice gates of the Polgol Mahavali Reservoir have been opened. Over 3,000 families of 9 districts are victimized due to heavy showers. All Aswasama beneficiaries are requested to open bank accounts to ensure direct cash transfer without delay. Visa-free entry is approved for visitors from 7 countries. Asian Development Bank funds for new finance project for small and medium enterprises in Sri Lanka. Foreign news: Russia claims destruction of 3 Ukrainian boats off Crimea. Sports news: Pradeep's Somasari shines at Asian Para Games. Local news in detail. 3 sluice gates of the Polgol Mahavali Reservoir have been opened by the Mahavali Authority. The authority says that more sluice gates may be opened due to the prevailing weather. Therefore, the public living in the area are cautioned to be on alert. 10,584 people from 9 districts have become victims of the adverse weather. Lowlands in the Mathura districts have been flooded. The highest rainfall during the last 24 hours was reported from Mattala. It is 165 millimeters. Director of the Irrigation Department, SPC Sugjiswara, says that the flood situation in the basin of Nilwala River would be slightly increased today. However, there is no threat of a heavy flood. The residents of the Akurasa, Athurulia, Tihaguda, Mathura, Kamburupitiya and Malimbara in Mathura districts are advised to be on alert. The chairman of the Aswasama Welfare Scheme Board, Jayantha Vijayaratna, requested the eligible beneficiaries of this scheme who did not open bank accounts yet to open bank accounts in order to ensure direct cash transfers without delay. 156,261 beneficiaries are to be made payments due to the delay in opening bank accounts. He expressed these views at a discussion held at the Presidential Secretariat on the current progress of the Aswasama Welfare Scheme. Over 7 billion rupees has been paid in 5 phases as the payment for the month of July so far. The remaining balance will be paid by December. 3 newly appointed ambassadors to Sri Lanka today handed over their credentials to President Ranil Wickremesinghe at the Presidential Secretariat. The new ambassadors represent Switzerland, the European Union and Iran. Accordingly, Dr. Mrs. Siriwal, the ambassador of Switzerland, Ms. Carmen Marino, the ambassador of the European Union in Colombo, and Dr. Aliraza Delkhosh, the ambassador of the Islamic Republic of Iran, presented their credentials to President Wickremesinghe. Tourism Minister Harin Fernandez said the Cabinet has approved visa-free entry for visitors from 7 countries, including India, China and Russia, as a pilot project until 31st of March 2024. In a tweet, he said that the Cabinet has approved visa-free entry to visitors from India, China, Russia, Malaysia, Japan, Indonesia and Thailand with immediate effect. Last week, the Ministry of Tourism announced that a cabinet paper had been presented in the previous cabinet meeting to issue free tourist visas for foreigners from 5 countries who come to Sri Lanka as tourists. The cabinet paper in this regard was presented as a joint cabinet paper by the Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardana, Tourism and Land Minister Harin Fernando, Minister of Public Security Tiranalas and Minister of Foreign Affairs Ali Sabri. The ministry had said that it was expected to get approval in the upcoming cabinet meeting and that accordingly it was proposed that tourists from China, Russia, India, Thailand and Indonesia be entitled for free visa. The purpose of exempt from many countries from visas is to attract more tourists to Sri Lanka. Accordingly, it is expected to increase tourist arrivals to 5 million over the coming years. This news comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
Cherished companion of microfinance banking, Samurdhi Community Bank.
More local news. The Asia Development Bank has agreed to provide $100 million for a new project set to be launched by the government, titled the Small and Medium Enterprise Development Finance Project. Accordingly, the Cabinet approved a proposal presented by the President, Ranil Wickremesinghe, in his capacity as the Minister of Finance, Economic Stabilization and National Policies in this regard. The project aims to aid those entrepreneurs of small and medium enterprises who find it difficult to finance their businesses. Meanwhile, the establishment of the National Credit Protection Institute was also agreed on, through which banks will prioritize asset-based lending over cash flows-based lending, allowing for less rigidity. The Small and Medium Enterprises Credit Scheme project was initially implemented by the government with financial support amounting to $165 million from the ADB to provide investment and working capital loans to small and medium enterprises at concessional interest rates. That ends local news.
Your closest ally in microfinance banking. The front runner in uplifting low-income households, extending a hand to those aspiring to thrive. Your very own financial institution, Samurdhi Community Bank, with a presence of 1,089 branches throughout the island. Your closest ally in microfinance banking. Your steadfast financial partner, Samurdhi Community Bank.
The main news story is brought to you by Sinhala Mahatma.
State Minister of Finance Ranjit Siambalapati has warned that the central bank remains on high alert with regard to those commercial banks that are yet to reduce their interest rates. Speaking to the media in Avisavel, the State Minister noted that the central bank would continue to closely monitor all commercial banks and financial institutions that have failed to abide by the recent circular issued by the central bank pertaining to the reduction of interest rates. That came to you on Main News Story.
The main news story was brought to you by Sinhala Mahatma.
Moving on to Watchlight, the general public has been cautioned over the increased spread of 3 infectious diseases in the island as a result of the prevailing inclement weather conditions. Public has been warned of the spread of eye diseases, diarrhea and respiratory diseases, often associated with the high body temperatures, and are therefore urged to take all possible precautionary measures while also paying attention to their personal health habits. Speaking further in this regard, Chairman of the Public Health Inspectors Union, Upul Rohana, emphasized that personal hygiene plays an integral role in controlling the spread of these diseases. That ends Watchlight. Moving on to world news, let's take a look at the headlines. Russia claims destruction of 3 Ukrainian boats off Crimea. A North Korean boat with suspected defectors detained by South. Iceland Premier strikes over gender pay gap. World news in detail. Russian Ministry of Defense says its naval forces have destroyed 3 unmanned Ukrainian boats in the northern part of the Black Sea off the Crimean Peninsula, the latest in a series of attacks around the contested waterway that is crucial to Russia's offensive against Kyiv. The minister said that anti-sabotage missiles and bombs hit the area where the unmanned boats were detected. It added that an anti-mining and an anti-sabotage operation was being conducted off the port of Sevastopol in the Black Sea, where Russia's Black Seas Fleet is based. Seoul's military said a small boat carrying suspected defectors from North Korea has been detained after it crossed into the South's water. It was detected on South Korea's side of the northern limit line, the maritime boundary of the two Koreas. The Joint Chiefs of the Staff said that the 4 people on board were presumed to have defected from North Korea. South Korean authorities did not release further details about the 4 North Koreans on board the wooden boat. Defections have become increasingly difficult since North Korean leader Kim Jong-un took power in 2011. Women in Iceland, including Prime Minister Katrin Jakobsdóttir, are refusing to work today. The Women's Day Off has been called in protest at the gender pay gap and gender-based violence. Fields in which women from the majority of workers, such as healthcare and education, are especially affected. The planned walkout marks the first full-day women's strike since 1975. Women and non-binary people have been urged to refuse paid and unpaid work today, including household chores. Iceland has been ranked the best country in the world for gender equality by the World Economic Forum for 14 years in a row. But the country is not completely equal, with the forum assigning it an overall score of 91.2%. To wrap up the world news, let's take a look at the headlines once again. Russia claims destruction of 3 Ukrainian boats off Crimea. A North Korean boat with suspected defectors detained by South. Iceland premiers strikes over gender pay gap. That ends world news.
Development news.
The Asian Development Bank has agreed to provide $100 million for a new project set to be launched by the Sri Lankan government, titled the Small and Medium Enterprise Development Finance Project. Accordingly, the Cabinet approved a proposal presented by President Ranil Wickremesinghe in his capacity as the Minister of Finance, Economic Stabilization and National Policies in this regard. The project aims to aid those entrepreneurs of small and medium enterprises who find it difficult to finance their businesses. Meanwhile, the establishment of the National Credit Protection Institute was also agreed on, through which banks will prioritize asset-based lending over cash flow-based lending following for less rigidity. That ends development news.
Sports news is brought to you by Shakti. Refresh your mind and body with Shakti Energy Drink. 350 rupees only. Available at island-wide leading groceries and supermarkets. Shakti. Taste the power.
Sports news. Para-athlete Pradeep Somsari has won another gold medal for Sri Lanka in the 4th Asian Para Games taking place in China. He placed first in the men's 1,500 meters T46 event today. Meanwhile, Nuwan Indika has bagged gold medal for Sri Lanka in the men's 100 meters T44 event, clocking a time of 11.63 seconds. The 2022 Asian Para Games kicked off in Hangzhou, China on October 22nd and will be held until October 28th. That ends